subscribe to the channel and press the bell. In the ever-evolving world of reality television, few stories have captured the public's attention quite like that of the Slaton sisters, Amy and Tammy, whose lives, struggles, and triumphs have been laid bare for millions on TLC's hit series 1000 LB Sisters. The show, which debuted in 2020, quickly became a cultural phenomenon, not only for its raw depiction of morbid obesity and the complex medical, emotional, and familial challenges that accompany it, but also for the deeply human bond between the two Kentucky sisters. Over the years, viewers have watched them navigate weight loss surgeries, health crises, romantic entanglements, and the often turbulent waters of sisterhood. Recently, however, a new chapter has unfolded, one that has shifted the spotlight dramatically toward Amy Slaton, as she celebrates a major financial milestone that has, perhaps unintentionally, cast a shadow over Tammy's long-awaited physical transformation. Amy Slaton, once known primarily for her battle with weight and her role as the more reserved, pragmatic counterpart to Tammy's fiery and impulsive personality, has quietly built a burgeoning empire that now stands as a testament to her resilience, business acumen, and strategic use of her platform. While Tammy has been in the headlines for her dramatic post-surgery weight loss and renewed confidence culminating in a highly publicized makeover that included new wardrobe, hairstyle, and even cosmetic enhancements, Amy has been steadily amassing wealth through a combination of savvy brand partnerships, merchandise sales, and digital content creation. The result? A financial windfall that not only secures her future, but also redefines her public identity beyond the confines of the show, according to industry insiders and publicly available financial disclosures. Amy has recently crossed the $1 million mark in personal earnings directly tied to her role on 1000 LB Sisters and her subsequent entrepreneurial ventures. This milestone is particularly significant given her background. Raised in a working-class household in Dixon, Kentucky, Amy spent much of her adult life grappling with health issues, limited mobility, and financial instability. Her initial appearance on the show depicted a woman struggling to care for her young son, Gage, while managing her own medical needs and emotional well-being. Few could have predicted that within a few short years, she would emerge as a self-made entrepreneur with a growing net worth and a loyal fan base that extends far beyond the reality TV audience. The foundation of Amy's financial success lies in her authenticity. Unlike many reality stars who pivot quickly into influencer territory with generic product endorsements, Amy has leveraged her journey in a way that feels genuine and relatable. She launched a line of motivational merchandise t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs bearing slogans like "Stronger Than Yesterday" and "My Journey, My Rules," which resonated deeply with fans who saw their own struggles reflected in hers. These items, sold through her official website and social media channels, quickly became bestsellers, generating consistent monthly revenue that far exceeded initial projections. Moreover, Amy has cultivated a strong presence on Instagram and TikTok, where she shares candid updates about her health, parenting, and daily life. Her follower count has surged past 800,000 on Instagram alone, making her a valuable asset for brands seeking to reach audiences interested in wellness, body positivity, and real-life transformation. She has partnered with supplement companies, fitness apps, and even local Kentucky businesses, always ensuring that the products align with her values and experiences. These collaborations are not merely transactional. They are carefully curated extensions of her narrative, which has helped maintain trust with her audience. Perhaps most impressively, Amy has used a portion of her earnings to invest in her future and that of her son. She recently purchased a modest but comfortable home in a safer neighborhood, complete with a backyard for Gage to play in, a far cry from the cramped, often chaotic living situations depicted in earlier seasons. She has also set up a college fund for him, something she has spoken about with visible pride in recent interviews. "I never had much growing up," she told a podcast host last month, "but I want Gage to have every opportunity. That's what all this is for, not just the fame or the money, but the chance to give him a better life. This financial independence has also granted Amy a new sense of agency in her relationship with Tammy. Historically, the sisters' dynamic has been marked by codependency, enabling behaviors, and frequent arguments often stemming from their shared history of trauma and emotional eating. Tammy, who has always been more outspoken and prone to dramatic gestures, frequently dominated their interactions on screen. But Amy's growing confidence, both financial and personal, has subtly shifted that balance. She now speaks with a quiet authority that commands respect, even from Tammy, who has acknowledged in recent episodes that Amy's got her head on straight these days. And yet, this shift has not been without tension. Tammy's own journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Following multiple weight loss surgeries and a grueling rehabilitation process, she has lost over 600 pounds of feet that required immense physical and emotional fortitude. Her recent makeover, which included professional styling, dental work, and even a photo shoot with a national magazine, was meant to symbolize her rebirth. She has spoken openly about wanting to be seen not just as the heavy sister, but as a woman of beauty, strength, and worth. However, the timing of Amy's financial mirror, the air in the small Kentucky town of Dixon hung thick with the scent of honeysuckle and anticipation. It wasn't just any summer day, it was the eve of Amy Slaton's wedding. For years, the name Slaton had been synonymous with the extraordinary, the record-breaking, the headline-grabbing. Specifically, the story of two sisters whose combined weight once tipped the scales at a staggering 1,000 pounds. Now, Amy, the younger of the two, stood on the precipice of a profoundly ordinary yet deeply significant milestone: marriage. But the shadow of her past and the complex, often fractured bond with her sister Tammy cast a long, uncertain shadow over the celebration. Amy's journey to this moment had been anything but linear. The world knew her from the TLC reality show that documented the sisters' struggles with severe obesity, their attempts at weight loss surgery, and the intense, codependent dynamic that both bound them together and threatened to pull them apart. Amy had undergone gastric bypass surgery years ago, a decision that initially sparked hope but also ignited a fierce, painful rift with Tammy, who chose a different path. Amy's subsequent weight loss, hundreds of pounds shed, wasn't just a physical transformation. It was a declaration of independence, a step towards a life she'd only dreamed of while confined to her recliner. She'd found love with Michael Halter, a man whose steady presence and unwavering support offered a stark contrast to the turbulence of her past. Their engagement felt like a hard-won victory, a testament to her resilience. Yet, as the final preparations unfolded in the modest bridal suite above the local community center transformed for the day into a venue of white chiffon and twinkling fairy lights, Amy's excitement was laced with a persistent, gnawing anxiety. It wasn't about the dress fitting perfectly, it did, a testament to her dedication. It wasn't about the weather, a perfect, clear Kentucky sky. It wasn't even about the usual pre-wedding jitters. It was about the empty chair, or rather, the potential emptiness of several chairs reserved in the front row. Tammy. Would she come? Their relationship was a labyrinth of love, resentment, jealousy, misunderstanding, and an unbreakable, if deeply scarred, familial bond. Tammy, still living with their mother Gail in the family home, had watched Amy's transformation with a mixture of pride and profound hurt. Amy's success felt to Tammy like a betrayal, a rejection of the shared identity they'd forged in their struggle, a silent judgment on Tammy's own continued battle. Arguments had flared over seemingly trivial things, a comment about food, a perceived slight about lifestyle choices, but the underlying current was always the same. Tammy felt left behind, abandoned on the island of their shared past, while Amy sailed towards a new horizon. Amy, for her part, carried immense guilt. She loved her sister fiercely, the love forged in childhood, in shared secrets, in the unique understanding only they possessed. She desperately wanted Tammy to share in her joy, to stand beside her as her maid of honor, as tradition and their history demanded. But she also knew the immense pressure Tammy felt, the physical and emotional challenges of leaving the house, the fear of judgment in a world that often stared. She'd extended the invitation repeatedly, gently, pleadingly. Tammy's responses had been non-committal, oscillating between tearful promises to be there and angry declarations that Amy didn't really want her there, that she'd just be an embarrassment. Gail, caught perpetually in the crossfire, was a bundle of nerves. She adored Michael and was thrilled for Amy, but her heart ached for Tammy. She'd spent the last week trying to coax, cajole, and reassure her eldest daughter. "She needs you, Tammy," Gail would say, her voice thick with emotion. "It's her day. Don't let your pride steal that from her, or from yourself." Tammy would often retreat into silence, or lash out, her own pain manifesting as anger. The logistics were daunting, too. Tammy's mobility required significant assistance, and the thought of navigating the venue, the stairs, real or imagined, the sheer physical exertion was overwhelming. Amy tried to focus on the positive. Michael's hand in hers was warm and steady. Her bridesmaids' close friends who had supported her through thick and thin, through the darkest days of her health struggles and the exhilarating highs of her recovery, buzzed with cheerful energy, fluffing her veil, adjusting her bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. They represented the life she'd built outside the Slaton narrative, a life of chosen family and hard-won normalcy. She looked at her reflection. The woman staring back was strong, radiant, her eyes holding a depth of experience that belied her smile. She'd fought for this happiness, but the image kept flickering. The memory of Tammy's face, pale and drawn after their last heated phone call just 2 days prior. "You think you're so much better now, don't you?" Tammy had accused, her voice trembling. "Parading around in your fancy dress, marrying your perfect man, acting like you left all that mess behind. But you didn't leave it behind, Amy. It's still me, and you're just ashamed to have me there." The words had cut deep, echoing Amy's own deepest, most shameful fears that her success was a form of rejection, that she was embarrassed by her sister's continued struggle, that she hadn't been. Not truly, but the complexity of it all, the love, the guilt, the frustration, the sheer exhaustion of the decades-long battle they'd share, made simple answers impossible. She wanted Tammy there as she was, not as some idealized version, but she also knew Tammy might not believe that, might see her presence only as a burden or spectacle. Downstairs, the guests began to arrive. The gentle murmur of conversation, the soft strains of a string quartet tuning up, the scent of fresh-cut grass drifting through the open windows, it all felt like a dream. Amy's father, Larry, looking uncharacteristically dapper in a rented tuxedo, poked his head in. His eyes, usually twinkling with mischief, were serious. "Nervous, Pumpkin?" he asked softly. Amy nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. His Tammy Larry sighed, running a hand over his thinning hair. Gail's with her. They're trying. She's getting dressed. That's something. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a definitive no either. It was the fragile hope they'd been clinging to for weeks. Larry squeezed her shoulder. Whatever happens, sweetheart, you look beautiful. Michael's a lucky man, and you deserve every bit of this happiness. His words were a balm, but the worry for her sister remained a cold stone in her stomach. Meanwhile, at the Slaton house, chaos reigned. Gail moved with frantic efficiency, trying to help Tammy into the specially ordered dress, a beautiful deep blue gown designed to accommodate her needs while still making her feel elegant. Tammy sat on the edge of her bed, tears silently tracking down her cheeks. "I can't do it, Mama," she whispered, her voice thick. "What if I fall? What if people stare? What if Amy looks at me and just sees how much I've failed?" "Oh, honey, no," Gail said fiercely, kneeling before her daughter, cupping her face. "Amy looks at you and sees her sister, her best friend, the person who shared her whole life with her. She's scared you won't come, Tammy. Scared you'll miss her big day because of all this mess between you." Gail gestured helplessly at the air, encompassing years of pain. "This is your chance, baby. To be there for her. To show her you're proud. To show yourself you can do this." Tammy looked down at her hands, then at the dress laid out on the bed. The blue fabric shimmered softly. She thought of Amy as a little girl, sharing secrets under the covers, defending her from bullies, the only person who truly understood the suffocating weight of their reality. She thought of the years they spent barely able to leave the house, their world shrinking to the four walls they shared. Amy had found a way out. Tammy hadn't. But did that mean she had to miss her sister's greatest moment of joy? The thought was unbearable. "I'm scared," Tammy admitted, the raw vulnerability stark in her voice. "I know, baby," Gail whispered, tears welling in her own eyes. "I'm scared too, but we'll be right there with you. Every step. And Amy, she'll be waiting. She needs you, Dot." The drive to the venue was tense. Tammy sat in the specially adapted van, her breathing shallow, her knuckles white where she gripped the armrests. Gail held her hand, murmuring reassurances. Larry drove, his usual joviality replaced by focused concentration. The familiar landmarks of Dixon passed by the gas station, the diner, the park where they'd sometimes managed short outings years ago. Each mile felt like a mountain dot. Back at the community center, the ceremony was scheduled to begin in 30 minutes. The guests were seated. Michael stood at the altar, looking handsome and slightly pale with nerves, scanning the back of the room with hopeful eyes every time the door opened. Amy stood just out of sight, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. Her bridesmaids offered quiet words of encouragement, but their eyes kept darting towards the entrance. The front row, reserved for immediate family, held only Larry and a few aunts and uncles. The space for Tammy and Gail remained conspicuously empty. The officiant gave a gentle nod. It was almost time. Amy's heart hammered against her ribs. The dream felt like it was slipping away, replaced by a familiar ache of disappointment. Had it all been for nothing? Would the shadow of their fractured relationship eclipse her wedding day? Then, a commotion near the entrance. A hushed murmur rippled through the guests. Amy couldn't see, but she heard the distinct, slightly labored breathing, the soft murmur of Gail's voice, the careful shuffle of feet. Her breath caught. Slowly, deliberately. The double doors opened wider. Gail entered first, her face a mask of determined calm, though her eyes shone with tears. Behind her, leaning heavily on a walker but standing tall, was Tammy. She wore the blue dress. Her hair was neatly styled, her makeup carefully applied. She looked nervous, vulnerable, but undeniably present. Her eyes, wide and searching, immediately found Amy's, even from across the room. A collective intake of breath seemed to go through the assembled guests, not a sound of judgment, but one of shared understanding, of witnessing something profoundly difficult and brave. Michael's shoulders visibly relaxed, a slow smile spreading across his face. Tammy took a deep, shaky breath. She met Amy's gaze fully, and in that look, years of pain, misunderstanding, and fierce, complicated love passed between them. There was no grand speech, no dramatic reconciliation in that moment. Just Tammy, taking one slow, deliberate step forward with her walker, then another, guided by Gail's steadying hand. She wasn't walking down the aisle as a bridesmaid. She was claiming her place as Amy's sister, as family, on her sister's most important day. Tears streamed freely down Amy's face now, but they were tears of overwhelming relief and gratitude. The knot of anxiety that had coiled in her stomach for weeks dissolved, replaced by a warmth that spread through her entire being. Tammy was here. Not perfect, not fixed, not magically transformed, but here present. Choosing to be there despite the fear, the pain, the history. As Tammy and Gail settled into their seats in the front row, Tammy reached out and squeezed Amy's hand where it rested on the back of the chair as Amy passed by on her father's arm moments later. The touch was brief but electric. It said everything words couldn't. I'm here. I love you. I'm trying. The ceremony proceeded. Vows were exchanged under the Kentucky sun, promises of love and partnership made in front of friends, family, and the sister whose presence meant more than any perfect day ever could. When Amy and Michael were pronounced husband and wife, the first face Amy saw in the crowd was Tammy's. Her sister was crying openly now, but she was also smiling a genuine, if tear-streaked smile of pure, unadulterated joy for her little sister, Dot. The reception was a blur of laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Tammy, though she couldn't dance, held court at her table, surrounded by relatives, her presence no longer a source of tension but a quiet anchor. Amy made sure to spend time with her, sitting beside her, sharing slices of cake, talking in the easy shorthand only siblings possess. The old wounds weren't magically healed. The road ahead for both sisters, individually and together, would undoubtedly have bumps. Tammy's health challenges remained immense, and the dynamics of their relationship would continue to evolve, requiring constant effort and forgiveness. But on this day, under the string lights and the warm Kentucky sky, a different kind of milestone was reached. It wasn't measured in pounds lost or records set. It was measured in the courage it took for Tammy to walk through that door, in the relief and love that flooded Amy's eyes when she saw her sister there, in the simple, profound act of showing up for each other when it mattered most.